doing here today. So the company that I work with is Winning by Design. So we're a group of about 7 partners located across the world. And what we do is we work specifically with SaaS-based businesses. You know, we help them to do a few things. Firstly, we assess sort of where they are and how they compare to sort of industry best practices. We then sort of help them to design scalable sales plans. We then go through and train their teams to be able to then go and execute with a customer-centric approach to sales. So we've done this for about 220 companies located across the globe. Obviously, a lot of them in Silicon Valley, where I started working with them. And then there's a growing number in Europe and also out here in Asia, in Australia and Asia Pacific as well. So guys, so really excited to be here. And look, today what we really want to sort of go through is just to sort of, they've got a couple of ideas of what we want to touch on the agenda, and that really looking at sort of what are the key moments you need to look at in your sales process, but and sort of how you can figure out to how it can become more efficient. But before we do that, I'd really love to get your feedback as to, look, I've put a question in the chat already, which is, look, just what is your biggest challenge in sales today? So if you could just please type in the chat. I was hoping we'd be able to enable you guys with voice as well, but it seems like we're going to have to do it via chat. So we'll see what you guys come back with. All right. While we're waiting for that, okay, another question I'm going to have is, just so we can really tailor this towards you guys, is if you could sort of help me understand what type of businesses that you guys work in, whether that be sort of SaaS, whether that be in wholesale, retail. If you could give us an indication, that would be awesome. Catherine's in media. Awesome. Thanks for that, Catherine. What type of media? Can you share with me a little bit more? And what's your role there? Publishing. Cool. Radio publishing. Nice. And what's your role there, Catherine? Founder. Okay, awesome. And so while you're engaged, what is it that you'd love to get out of this session today? What's going to make your life easier when it comes to sales? Getting an audience with your market. Very cool. Okay, well, Catherine, this could be your opportunity. We've got a lot of time, and we've a lot of time that we're going through, and it's only you really sort of engaging back. So we're going to be able to talk a lot about sort of getting that audience with your market. Oh, there we go. Tech recruitment marketplace. Brilliant. And what's your biggest challenge? Is it Tarak? Did I get that right? Tara, sorry, Tara Kaplan. Makes a lot more sense now that you say it like that. Very cool. So while we're waiting for Tara's biggest challenge, it'd be great, Catherine, it'd be cool if you could just let us know in the chat as to how you're getting an audience with your market now. You're doing it via lots of outbound activity, or you've got sort of inbound coming in. So it'd be great if you could just help us understand a little bit more about how you're doing that today. All right, so for Tara, all right, you're getting people to respond, a huge challenge. So look, what we've got here today is something that is potentially going to help you. Just a quick question, Tara. In terms of getting, are you using any, I'm presuming, because it's an outbound recruitment marketplace, you're using the phone, you're using email, you're going to LinkedIn, you're doing a lot on social. Is there any technology that you're using to better manage all those different elements of the cadence? Outreach. Cool. Awesome. A great customer of ours. We love their software, but it's also something that's going to be super helpful for you. Okay, and ringing trying to get through to people. Okay, so some really sort of common challenges that you guys are facing. But so we'll go through. We'll make sure we address those. Just to include. All right, awesome. Yeah, Tracy, love to be able to include you as well, and you as well. Thanks, Jade. So we can get through that. But we want to make sure we're getting some value straight out of the gate. All right. So a big thing. Sorry about that. My camera's just started zooming in and out. So apologies for that lack of focus. But do you want to talk about a couple of the big challenges that have been sort of affecting salespeople today? And look, this is something we've seen it a lot in the like software as a service space, but it's also permeated into a lot of other areas of business, including sort of publishing and marketplaces. And what we've found is that traditionally a lot of software, a lot of sort of solutions in B2B sales traditionally were very expensive. Okay, but one of the big changes that we've seen today is that those costs have reduced drastically. Okay, typically what people were spending something like a significant amount of money, they're now spending sort of almost a tenth of that. Okay, when that also has another huge impact on the business. Okay, so those bigger deals, okay, traditionally used to take a lot longer to close. So those deals were at sort of 300, used to take 365 days. Okay, they're now closing in 30. Okay, so it's happening a lot quicker. And then the other element as well, yet again, all for becoming the fact that we're not selling deals as big anymore, is that what used to happen in one really big, huge, humongous deal was to actually now happens in lots of little smaller deals. So we've got smaller deals coming through at a higher velocity, and we're having a lot more of them. Okay, so this is sort of a really huge shifts that are happening in the B2B sales market. And Tracy, well, look, make sure you don't keep your phone on too long when the hosties tell you to turn it off. But we'll try to go and address those sort of challenges that you're talking about, which is educating markets about rescue at a large scale. And so we'll actually touch on that now, because one of the things, one of the sort of the big things affecting B2B sales, again, after we've got that, is that there's a huge amount of information available out there for today's buyer. So we all know that because we're all probably creating a ton of content on our own, but we're also consuming a lot as well. And so there's a lot of noise out there in the market. So that's probably why it's tough for you guys to get through. But it also means that there's a lot of information for people to be able to go out there and educate themselves, okay, on your product or service. And so what we really need to do is transform what's traditionally been a sales journey into sort of really understanding the customer's buyer's journey. Yeah, and so, but that buyer's journey has changed. Okay, so a lot of you have probably seen something sort of a sales funnel that looks sort of a little bit like this. Okay, where we've sort of got at the top where we've got these leads coming in and then sort of coming out of the bottom. Okay, we sit there and we close that deal, and we get that win. Okay, but one of the big challenges is that, look, that's totally changed in the world of today's sales environment, where everything is as a service. Okay, we really need to start thinking about these relationships differently, because in the old scale world, when you sort of sold something and then never saw them again, like, it didn't really matter. There was zero risk on the salesperson. They could say anything, do anything that they wanted to do to be able to make those sales count. But that's totally changed today. And the reason why is that because customers have more information, but also the where we get the majority of our money means we need to think of, sorry, we'll move this up a little bit. We need to start thinking about actually the whole sales process and the journeys that they go through. Because in most businesses today, look, when people sort of go through, because people are going through a couple of different decisions. Now, people don't, when people are going to make a purchase decision, when you're trying to engage them, they don't ever ring you up and say, hey, look, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you reaching out to me. I think I've gone through the awareness stage and I'm be ready to put into the next stage in your CRM, which is education. And they go through from the education, great, fantastic. I'm now qualified. You can put me through as into selection. Thank you. They don't think like that. Okay, just like when you sort of go into, if you've ever been to, say, an open house, or you've ever gone and looked at a car, you sit there and what you do is you think in experiences. You're thinking emotionally about how you're actually going to go and react with that product or service that you're looking to create. So we need to think about that as well. And so the first reaction that people have when they're right at the start of the process that we really need to engage with, so push that out a little bit. The first one is we really need to sort of help them understand. So what happens when they understand what is happening when they first realize that they need this? And that the emotion that they're feeling is a really visceral one. Like it's, oh shit, I've got a problem. Okay, there's something going wrong. There's something broken in my business that I need to go and resolve. Okay, the second emotion that people are feeling. Okay, once they sit there and they figure out that there's a problem, they potentially might get online. They're going to do a little bit of Googling and go figure that out. Go sort of understand a little bit more about the different products or services that are out there, and they're going to go, aha, there is a solution for me. Okay, I'm not the only one suffering this. There are a bunch of other people doing this. And ultimately, wow, okay, there's a product, there's a service out there that's going to be able to meet my needs. And they're super excited and super relaxed. It gives them sort of a great opportunity to go down there. So and this takes us to where you ultimately get to that sort of C. Okay, what does C normally stand for in your sales process? Do you guys sort of think about finishing a sales process with a C? If you want to touch on that in the chat, what do you think the C could stand for? Close. Good. All right, we've got some thinking traditionally. So Catherine, traditionally it's a close. Okay, but that's changed. Like now it's very much, it's a commit. Okay, because we've got to think about the other part of the sort of the engagement in these customers' life cycle. Because if you think about today in the majority of businesses, okay, you look at sort of 70 to 85% of revenue actually comes from at the end, after you've had this sort of initial engagement, this initial commitment from your customers. So this C now becomes a commitment. Okay, you're committing to them to be able to solve their problem on the way through, and it's definitely not the close of the relationship. Glad that makes sense, Tara. Thanks for that. So when we think about that, the customer experience continues through. Okay, and so we're looking at these other elements of what happens next. Like, and it's like boom. Like people actually finally realize I haven't bought a dud. This car or this product or service actually works, and I've used it for the first time, and I've been able to sort of go and do something like achieve that first value milestone. Okay, where you really get that first value from the product. And then it's awesome when you actually start getting that recurring value from the product. And finally, the emotion we're really trying to get to is the, oh my God, right? This product is awesome. I can't wait to tell my friends and family about this, or all my colleagues, or more to the point, I want to continue to buy more. I'll sort of renew what I'm doing, buy more, share my experiences, and ultimately this is going to lead more people back into the funnel. So when we think about, I want to go back to the start of this process where we're going to spend most of the time, because it seems like that's where you guys would like to spend most of your time. Okay, so when we're looking here, we're looking at this stage. Okay, so we've got this sort of, oh shit, I've got a problem. Like, oh shit, just realize I've got a problem. And then there's a sort of aha phase. Great, I want to educate, and then the wow. Okay, what I'm going to do is put a couple of numbers up here. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we've got 4 numbers up there. Now, utilizing the chat, what I want you to do is to let me know at what stage of the buying process do we want to engage our prospects to give us the best chance of winning in the shortest possible time frame. Okay, so that's the best chance of winning in the shortest possible time frame. Okay, so we've got 1 or before from Catherine, sorry. How about you, Tara? What do you think? 1 as well. Maddie, what do you think? The aha stage. Okay, and so we've got in here. Well, guys, I'd just like to, we've got a couple of foot in either plan here. Well, good. There's supposed to be a bit of confusion, a bit of confliction around this. The reality is the answer is number 2. Okay, so it's just the best time we've got to be able to really, or the best time to be able to increase our deal velocity is if we can find our prospects, our customers, after they've realized that they've got a problem, but before they've figured out that they've got a solution, before they figure out that there's other vendors there that they can help with. So this is where we really get to educate them on how they can solve that problem. And which ultimately, if we diagnose them correctly, diagnose their challenges, we can then prescribe to them a solution which is going to work for them. And so we call this, okay, so this is the big, we call this the value creation point. Because that's where we can really create sort of value in our products or solutions. We'll just tilt that up a little bit so you can see that. Okay, Tracy, thank you very much for coming. I hope you have a safe flight. But for those of you still left, okay, so we've got the challenge that we've got when we're coming all the way here at the start of the 1 to this stage and trying to engage people there, is that we've got to spend a lot of time educating people on exactly sort of what is the problem that they've got. So for some companies, especially early on in their stage when they are startups, if they are sort of evangelizing a new problem that people don't have, we don't have a choice. We've got to spend a lot of our time educating, but we've got to think of other ways and means we're going to be able to do that. And a big way of doing that, which we really sort of want to focus in, and a big point we want to get across today, it's got a different color pen, is that how we actually sort of get people to come through. Okay. So just reading your question there, Maddie, with sort of big ticket items, but thinking about in the FMCG sector, your time is much shorter or to engage for a fashion purchase. You barely get beyond the hello, but okay, the connection happens a lot earlier in those instances. And that's where we see people they do make that connection. Okay, but you think people are actually, when they're coming through, especially in that fashion, in that FMCG, they're doing a lot of this online and they're going through on this journey, okay, where they're sort of coming through. But a lot of the times in that transactional piece, okay, the salesperson is only really doing this last tiny little bit of the sales process, because we're doing all of this educating that they've got a problem, educating them on how to solve it, and even taking them most of the way through the selection before, okay, they might need that little bit of help, whether that be online or in store. Okay, so we call that sort of the transactional sale. Okay, a little bit further out is a little bit more of that solution style sale. When you're going a little bit further out to that value creation point, we talk about that being the consultative sale. Okay, where we sort of really just help people understand the problem that they've got and what they're facing. And we're going all the way out here to the start of the funnel. Okay, we talk about that as being a provocative sale. Okay, so that's where we really sort of go in and sort of help people understand that we are the experts in this, and you've got some real challenges in your business that you haven't been able to address yet. But I want to go back. Does that help, Maddie? While I'm wiping it off before I give you a chance to respond. Yeah, cool, awesome. So just want to go back to that sort of fashion piece, okay? And you all may be able to help me out here. What type of when you first sort of realize that you found something that you really want, when you have that oh shit moment around with your fashion piece, which I know sort of when it happens for me, but what is it that sort of makes you feel like you need to go purchase a new item? What is it that do you see something? Do you see someone else wearing it? Could you talk me a little bit about what's the emotion that you feel at that time where you sort of identify that oh shit in the fashion sense? Purely the need you have. It fills your need, it fills your want. But what makes you identify that you've had that need, especially when you look at fashion advertising or when you look at sort of that influencer marketing? Okay, so those needs, all right. So what I was really looking for is the way that people make purchase decisions these days, because the human psychology has been sort of really well documented on this. There's a book, I was just looking for it now, by a guy by the name of Daniel Kahneman, who's a Nobel Prize economist, but he really sort of identifies that the brain thinks in two ways. It's got two speeds. Firstly, it's you need some shorts, you go buy some shorts. Okay. All right. So a lot of people, but then when you look at sort of the different types of brand, really not feeling the emotional need. Okay. But when people need to go buy the shorts or whatever it is, you've got a choice. Okay. And that's where we, as the salespeople, need to be able to connect with people emotionally. And that's what Daniel Kahneman was talking about when he talked about the two-speed brain. Okay, so the first one is the sort of emotional piece, and that's where we make a lot of our decisions, and that's what's really happening up here at this early stage of the process. Okay, people need to be able to connect emotionally, and after they connect emotionally, we work into that two-speed brain, where people start to then going and rationalizing that with data. Okay, so we've got to be able to think about how those different ways in which we can connect with people emotionally. So I just want to sort of think about that for a moment. When people ask you for information on your product or services, what are you sending to them in an email? Are you guys sending emails? Yeah. All right. Okay. So think about what type of thing are you attaching? Tara, I know you'd be sending a ton of emails using Outreach. What types of things are you attaching to emails? Always great to book a coffee or face to face, but look, that's the challenge that we've got here today. So what type of information are you sharing, Tara? An audio of the product, really cool. A video of your product and what you can do. Great. I love the fact that you're sitting there and you're talking about video. Okay, video and audio, fantastic. Fantastic mediums to be able to sit there and try to create that emotional connection. The one thing that slightly scare me about what you're talking about is that you're talking a lot about what relates to you. And Tara, you just sort of made that slight adjustment there, which is great, because we want to really focus more on the challenges and the pains that they face. And we'll touch on that in a moment. Okay. But what we want to avoid is sending around things like white papers and really data-driven case studies, any sort of videos or any sort of windows you've got into into sort of real customer stories about the challenge, their oh shit moment, and how they were able to solve it is fantastic. It's really emotional, okay, and it really sort of cuts through and makes it a lot easier to get those initial engagements with people. And just want to give you one quick tip, okay? One thing which has been working incredibly well for people, okay, incredibly well, especially utilizing tools like outreach or sort of this outbound prospecting, is to actually create a little video like this, okay? A short 30-second video, using it, pop it in the where you sort of you say, like, it's just, hi, my name's Andy. The reason I want reaching out to you today is that look, I noticed that you're hosting a ton of jobs online. We know sort of one of the biggest challenges that you might face is like going and finding additional candidates. So I wanted to share with you just this quick, introduce this sort of unique way in which it's helped these other companies be successful. Okay, stop, end that, put that in a tiny little thumbnail in a really small email, send it away. So three tools that you can use for this. One of them is Soapbox, a free tool, Chrome plugin. Yeah, look, you become very, very different. And let me just sort of, I just want to, yes. So one of the things, I'm just going to share with you a couple of links from these guys at a company called SalesLoft who are doing a great job today of using yet another customer of ours. But there, it gives you some great examples of how people can actually utilize it. Okay, because they get a whiteboard up, they have an individual's name saying, hi Andy, just so they know when they sort of, so they hold that up, they can see that it's a targeted message for them. Takes longer to do it, but we're going to talk about the reason why this is so much more important. Okay, so awesome to hear that you're all loving video and you're embracing that, and we want to make sure that you guys are doing that. And look, and look, what you're talking about there, Maddie, is even better. So where you're talking about, tell your friends what you miss. So early on in this sales process, we're just trying to get that initial engagement with someone. So we're making that personal connection. So that's where video is super helpful. But as we get later on in the process, where we start perhaps trying to diagnose or prescribe a solution, or we're helping people, we're giving them a proposal, and we want to be able to share our value proposition and the value that we give beyond just the sort of the piece of paper or the attachment, okay? Because you're typically the best person to be able to share that story within the business. Video is a fantastic tool for doing that, okay? If the champion that you're speaking to needs to go speak to someone else, record a quick video, okay? Summarize it. What's the situation? What's the pain that you're solving? What's the impact going to be for the business? And you can do that. It's a really fantastic tool to be able to speed your way through that sales process. But did just want to talk very quickly about, look, there's a couple of key moments in the sales processes that we can go impact. We've got 10 minutes left, so we're going to cram a lot of value into this 10 minutes before we sort of open the floor to Q&A. But you can always just keep, there's a few of us here, so feel free to just ask any questions at any stage. So we're going to look at sort of the different areas, the few key moments that we're talking about. So we've got sort of one here right at the start of the process. We've got one in the middle, okay, another one down there, and then there's the last element is right on that commit phase. Okay, so we're going to talk about a few really sort of key things which we really need to be able to do to hit that. Okay, so the first one, okay, right at this early stage of the process, where we're trying to sort of go out and engage people. And Tara, this is a huge challenge for people when they actually are using outreach, because a lot of people, they sit there and they go through, fantastic, what they want to do is when they're trying to reach out to people, they go, I'm going to go personalize. Okay, they're going to go personalize their message. So they're going to look and go, hey, look, I understand what company you work in because you're between employees. You've got between 50 and 100 employees. I know what role that you've got, and I know where you're located. So they're looking at this, they're going, fantastic. Here's a way to personalize it. But what that is really missing these days, okay, is that just sort of it's missing the way that people are wanting to engage, because the way that people need to engage, okay, is to really have that relevance. So that's what we're trying to create in that video, is look for those opportunities to create relevance. So it's not, a lot of this comes in the type of information and the type of engagements that we're providing. You know, because a lot of the times when people are going this personalization path, they're not providing a lot of information. They're asking for something. Okay, they're asking for 15 minutes. Okay, and a coffee. What have you done? What have you done to earn that 15 minutes? And a lot of the times people haven't done anything. Okay, so people really need to focus on sort of sharing insights. Okay, the whole you've got to give something to get something, or you've got to think about your customers, your customers like a bank, that you've got to make a deposit with them. Okay, you've got to deposit some knowledge. You've got to share something before you can withdraw. Okay, and that we've really got to focus on giving a lot to our customers. And so that happens when we focus more on the problems and challenges that they face, and we start transforming sort of our initial outreach to move away from personalization and more to relevance. It takes more time. Okay, there's no doubt about it. It takes more time, but the conversion, we see that sort of when you're able to do that a lot better, the conversion rates do skyrocket. Okay, so the next element, we're going to sort of be talking about what happens when you do get that. Well, just want to stop. Is there any questions there around sort of creating more relevance rather than personalization in your messaging, or in how you're reaching out to your customers? All right, we'll keep. Oh, okay. So the difference between personalization. So personalization is something that really sort of came about in the last sort of five to 6 years with marketing automation. I'm sure you've received a ton of emails where people have actually forgot to turn on, where the personalization is stuffed up, where they say, "Hi, insert first name here. Congratulations on your new role as a insert role here for insert company here." So you end up getting very generic messages that have fake levels of personalization at scale. So it ends up being a message like, "Hi, Andy, congratulations on your new role as a sales architect at Winning by Design." So you sit there and you go, immediately people are starting to cotton on that you actually haven't personalized anything. You're utilizing this in a tool. So exactly, it's not personalized at all. So look, and it's really, when we talk about transitioning to relevance, that's when we're taking a different perspective. And it might be like, if you're selling to me, it's just, "Hi, Andy, love that blog post you recently did on LinkedIn. Although I'm not quite sure I'm sold on the customer centric selling yet. Look, there's something that I'd really like to challenge you on the statement that you made in paragraph 3. Mate, would you be willing to jump on a quick call to discuss this? Or would you be willing? Here's some more information on why I think it's a little bit different." So we're really tailoring the message. We're making it relevant. And so when we're looking to create that relevance, we do it in 3 ways. So we look to better understand the individual, the person. Okay, what is it that we can learn about them? We look at what about the company? How can we be relevant towards the company? Or then how can we be relevant towards the industry? So we look at those few elements, and that's how we start to drive in that relevance at scale. Okay, so moving on. All right, we're into this second stage. Okay, we're into this education piece, and what happens? Okay, so Tara, when you go out and you get that coffee meeting, what does that look like? What are you aiming to do in those meetings? We're just waiting, a little bit of hold music while Tara is typing, hopefully typing. All right, might have sort of just ducked off momentarily, but get them talking about themselves. Awesome. Love hearing that. Okay, because what a lot of people sort of end up doing, okay, is they use this as an opportunity to pitch. Okay, and so what we've got to do is turn this discovery, all right? Well, we're going to talk about ways we can do that, Tara, as well shortly, but we've got to turn that pitch into a genuine conversation. And that's one of the challenges that people have with the discoveries as well at the moment, is that they're not actually turning a discovery, actually sounds a lot more like an interrogation. And because we're asking a lot of questions, we're super keen to know it. We're all of a sudden, we've asked them about 13 questions and they're sitting there going, but what do I get out of this? It's not a conversation. Okay, so there's a great framework that we use to be able to help people understand what is that, help people understand a little bit more about sort of how to remember communicate in these B2B sense. Okay, and it's a framework we call Talker. And it's something a lot of you are already using today. Which I can see that we're already using today. And you see the lower I get down when I'm writing on this board, the worse it gets, the worse my handwriting gets. So the Talker stands for a few things. First thing is tone. Okay, we've got to understand how we're engaging with people, and tone goes across on email just as well as it does sort of in those videos. If we're too excited and we're actually sort of going to speak to accountants, our message is going to be mixed. Okay, if we've got too much of a stiff upper collar, like it's probably not going to be working in the publishing world. We've really got to sort of align that tone to the people that we're selling to, sort of in that matching and mirroring. Okay, we need to ask questions. Okay, and which is a big part of that discovery. And we're going to sort of talk a little bit about some of what those questions can be shortly. A big problem that a lot of salespeople don't have, which is something that happened to me for a long, long time, is I didn't actually listen to the responses. I was too worried about what was the next question I'm going to ask. So I didn't actually listen, and I didn't sort of prove that. And one of the biggest ways you can really sort of prove that you're listening is to actually go and keep notes. Constantly go back to those notes. And what you want to do is actually then go repeat back. Okay, repeat back to them what you just heard, summarize consistently. You know, and we need your summaries to be your happy place. A lot of people, when a customer asks them a question that stumps them a little bit, or the conversation might go into a place that's a little bit awkward, or there's a little bit of silence. I'm sure we've all been there on a sales call. They start talking about themselves. They start talking about their product or their service and particular types of features which they think are going to be really good, but ultimately we're talking about the wrong person here. Okay, the hero of the story is the customer. So we need to summarize. We need that to be your happy place. Okay, get them to summarize and then ask them to then sort of elaborate a little bit more of exactly sort of what did you mean by that? Could you help me understand how that impacts your business? Okay, so this Talker framework, something super easy to think about on paper, but really tough to be able to implement in person or over the phone. Okay, so it's one of those things that you need to be super conscious. Take every opportunity that you can to listen to your own calls. Reread your emails with a really critical eye, just to continue to improve that craft. Make sure that you're having conversations, not pitching at people. Okay, so I want to talk now a little bit at this third stage. Okay, where people typically at sort of stage number 3, what people typically doing at this stage, okay, is really going through and they try to qualify. And they qualify. And traditionally, people have been qualifying sales in the same way for the last 30, 40, 50 years, all the way back when sort of Dave Sandler, or sort of going a little bit earlier. Look, they sort of first invented those sales funnel. Everyone was looking to to really qualify their sales. A common way to qualify would be sort of BANT, where people have budget, BANT, which stands for budget, authority, need, and time frame. The problem is with BANT, it was invented in IBM when they were selling mainframe computers that were worth $2.5, $3, $4, $10, $20 million. So these were huge investments that actually did need to be sort of costed, and there was really clear lines of that decision-making process. But that's changed. Okay, people, there was a great report brought out by the Harvard Business Review that talked about that 73% of corporate spending last year by all NASDAQ listed companies was unbudgeted. Okay, there wasn't a line item for these particular items in the budget. So it means that understanding BANT doesn't actually guarantee that we're going, or doesn't really sort of identify if there's a need. So we've got to transition from qualifying and really sort of move that towards diagnosing. Okay, diagnosing what the customer's challenges are. Okay, just like when you go to a doctor, if you walk in with a limp and the doctor immediately goes, "Oh, that's it, we've got to amputate the leg," and you're going, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! I've had that injury for 20 years. I've actually got a headache. Can I just get some Panadol?" Like, they're not actually diagnosing what the challenges are, and that's what happens a lot in the sales process. And so, how do we diagnose? And how do we diagnose to be able to validate if there's an opportunity or need within the business? And the big way to do that is we find that there's two critical elements in all deals, okay? Whether it be from sort of consumer all the way up to huge enterprise deals. What we're trying to sort of diagnose to uncover two main things. The first one is, what's the business impact that they're looking to achieve? And the second thing is, what is the critical event of when they need to achieve that by? Okay, so do you guys want to sort of help me understand what are some of the impacts that businesses are looking to achieve? Hopefully, we're still here. We're still chatting. Tara, Catherine, do you have any idea of the type of impacts businesses are looking to, would like to achieve? Solve their problems. Take away their pain. Absolutely, yeah, they're great ones. For you, Tara, hiring. Okay, when we think about the impact that we're having, innovate, find new ways of doing things. These are all really, really sort of good things to have. They're nice things to have. Some might even say they're great things to have. But the reality is, solving their problem does not make a genuine impact for their business. Okay, there's only 4 ways you can really go and impact the business. 1, you can help them make more money. 2, we can help them save money. 3, okay, we can sort of do the Apple thing and just provide this and have a low cost widget where something is just super cool and easy to use that I just love it. And so this awesome UI, UX. Or the last way, okay, is that people buy things to stay out of jail. Okay, because they're looking for, they've got to comply with it. They've got to sort of keep up with the regulatory compliance, or there's been a shift in the industry that they need to be able to manage. So they're the things, that's what we really need to tie that to. So those things that you all mentioned, solving problems, take away pains, hiring, innovating, they all lead to these impacts, but that's where we need to diagnose, okay, exactly what that is. And which takes time. It's not an easy thing to do. And so I promise we'll talk a little bit about how we do that. Any questions on that? Like on the impact that people are looking to get? While we're waiting for questions, one thing I do want to highlight is that sort of impact and critical event typically would work together. Okay, so look, when people sometimes people have a critical event. Tara, for you, people could have, hey, look, I need to have this amount of headcount on by this date. fantastic. There's a critical event, and the critical event drives a business impact. Because what happens if you miss that date? Is that going to mean loss? Does that mean you're going to lose? You're not going to be able to make money, or does that mean that you're not going to be able to? You're going to lose money by sort of not having the staff there generating the revenue. So they do sort of interconnect. Okay, sometimes, all right, people don't have such a clear event, such a clear critical event as, hey, I've got to hire a bunch of people. Okay, so in the publishing world, like it could even be something that, look, I know that we're losing market share. Okay, we're losing market share, and so so they've got to improve that. But they've got to improve it by a particular time, or they've got to reach a certain revenue goal by a particular time. And that's where we can really sort of tie the impact to a critical event by understanding what are their goals for either making money or reducing costs. So it's a really great question that you asked there, Maddie, in terms of how does a sexy widget impact a business? And as I sort of alluded to, this is more for those lower cost items, okay, which we really see a lot of people with the ability for people to sort of go out, use on a corporate credit card, and actually sort of go out and to be able the ability to spend look upwards of sort of $5,000 on their corporate credit card. People are able to just go and buy stuff because it's cool. And so this is where, yet again, we're getting more into this sort of transactional kinds of sale, okay, where people are looking, they're along the way through the process, and they're just, hey, look, cool. I'm going to give this a try for a little while, just because it's cool, it's sexy, and I think it's going to work for me. And we can thank Steve Jobs for that. The iPhone and the sort of the explosion of apps has really sort of brought out this new impact, which wasn't there which we didn't see being effective prior to that. Hopefully that helps. Awesome. No, any other questions on that piece? Cool. So I want to talk a little bit about how we get there. Okay, look, I know we're sort of running out of time a little bit, and probably won't be able to get for the trading, but look, understanding and getting to the impact is super tough. Okay, it's super tough. And so we've got to think about how we do that in a customer meeting, how we actually sort of go through and delve into those different layers. So what we've sort of got here, what we've drawn here is just a little sort of timeline of a meeting. So we're looking at engagement over time. And so as we think about how we're sort of looking at engaging with these customers, but we really need to start it in a professional way. So a lot of people, when I listen to a lot of calls from the people that we train, everyone starts their meeting in an incredibly different way. Okay, a salesperson will have one scheduled meeting, they'll kick it off, and then they'll have another one half an hour later. It'll sound totally different. It'll start totally different. So we find having a professional way to doing that, and we've got a great framework which I'll share with you guys afterwards called ACE that enables you to appreciate their time, check how much time you have left, and then set some end goals. But ultimately, there's a structure that you can follow in terms of asking a couple of situational questions, delving into the pain, okay, summarizing what you've just heard, okay, and this is the key, is sharing third-party stories. Okay, a lot of the times when customers, when we're speaking to them, and when they say, oh, this is this pain, it's really hurting, and I'm really looking for something to solve. Is that something that you do? And immediately sales reps all over the world put on their happy ears and just go, yes, that's exactly what we can do. I'm so excited you asked, and then start pitching. Okay, but that's not what we need to then continue to build trust and continue to position ourselves as an expert. The greatest way we can do that is repeat it back to them. This is what, just want to make sure, like, this is a situation you're facing, and this is the pain that's causing. Is that right? Yes. Okay, and then we can introduce a third party story. Okay, I was actually speaking with John, who's the marketing manager at a company very similar to yours a little bit earlier, and like he was experiencing a challenge, not exactly the same as yours, but it was experiencing challenges A, B, C, and when they were able to solve that, this is what they were able to achieve. Does that story resonate with you? Okay, going through and sharing that third party story just really sort of turns it away from being a pitch and gives it, and it means that you're sharing these thoughts and best practices. And then afterwards, we've really got to go through and understand a little bit more about that impact question.